Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Everyone, welcome. Surah Ra'd, chapter 13, verses 35 to 38. And these are the references. And this is our contact if anyone has got a query or a question. Recap so far. The state of a nation does not change. Inna Allaha la yughayyiru ma bi qawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. If you remember, we went through this verse in detail, and what Quran says is that until that nation, nothing changes until that nation changes what is in its psyche. We should use this as a criterion to judge a nation and its present condition in the world. Next is what is good for mankind remains on earth. The Quran says, وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَمْ نَاسَ فَيَمْكُسُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. If people wish to change the state which they are in, then they need to strive hard to bring out what is good for them. Because unless we make an effort, nothing changes in this world. So the world which we have is the sum total of our efforts in the last many centuries. The law of requital functions 24/7 and does not spare any human being. We have gone through it in detail, so the Quran re-emphasizes this aspect again and again. Those who decide to opt for batil will not be able to withstand haqq if those who are following haqq are resolute in following the path of Allah. The Quran says, وَمَا دُعَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. Now over here when Quran says that the supplications or the prayers or dua of kafirin are misguided, do not bear results, then it takes into account the life of the hereafter as well. And those benefits, it takes into account those benefits which are associated with the development of the self as well. So these things should be kept in mind, otherwise one can become a bit misguided that kafirin, for example, in today's world, human intellect is dominating. So one can say that their supplications, inverted commas, are getting granted. When we come to the Quran, we make an unwritten binding covenant through ourselves with Allah. And Quran says, Allazina yufuna bi ahdillahi wa la yanquzuna al-mithaq. Accepting Iman is the first step on this eternal commitment to the cause of Allah in this world. Over here, a question can come in our mind that can this covenant with Allah be in writing as well, just like an oath? Yes, under the system of deen, the system can decide, and the Momineen over there who are at the top, who run the system, can decide that if we also require some kind of a written agreement with Momineen, because a written agreement makes it a bit more formal. There is a continuous tussle which goes on in the human world between haqq and batil, and we see it continuously in our life. It is simply unavoidable and is part of the system of the human self's development. So the important thing over here is that even if batil is in majority, even if 99% of the world is on batil at some point in time, that 1% who are on haqq are the ones who are following truth. So it is not the majority which counts, it's the value itself counts. So the Quran is haqq. So Quran, even if nobody follows it, it stays haqq. So that is the point which we should keep it in mind, and this is some aspect to which Quran repeatedly draws our attention. The guidance of the Quran only becomes available to those who seek it. This is a very important point, and we have gone over it a number of times, that if I am seeking guidance, then I will get it. If I don't seek guidance, I will not get it. And this is true in our normal life as well. If I don't wish for something, I'm not going to make an effort for that. It involves the participation of both heart and mind. Allazina amanu wa tatmainnu qulubuhum bi zikrillah. The Quran very clearly says, and we should keep it in mind, Allazina amanu, it is a collective tense. The Momineen, Momineen are addressed. This is addressed to the system, that if you follow Allah's zikr, which is essentially zikrukum, that is, it is our zikr, the human zikr, it is a guidance for us, then you will attain this state of tatmainnu qulubuhum. The Quran helps human beings to achieve a higher stature in this life and to create a world free from fear and grief. So that is the bottom line. We should keep it in mind that Quran says that human world run by human beings and their intellect without the guidance of the Quran will always create fear and grief, khawf and huzn. So if we want a world which is free from fear and huzn, then we have to come to the Quran. This contentment is based on collective effort of Momineen towards establishing the system of deen. Those who look for miracles that believe in these are not using the rational and reasoning side of their intellect. If you remember, we went over it in slightly more detail that when we look for miracles, we are essentially looking for shortcuts in life. And there is no shortcut in life because whole life is based on our deeds. And whatever we do, that is bound to produce some kind of an effect, some kind of a result. So miracles means that we are looking for some kind of an event which can subjugate, which can constrain our intellect. Whereas intellect is the one which should not be constrained so that it can make best use of its own intellect or its own intelligence. So this is important that we must not look for miracles. This is human world and human beings can change it. The Quran is about using intellect and reasoning to resolve those issues which are created by unguided human intellect in the world. So Quran repeatedly asks us to develop our intellect and reasoning. In fact, we can say that Quran is the book to develop our intellect and reasoning beyond those levels where human intellect alone can reach. Now let us look at the first verse of today's presentation, 1334. Jannat is a metaphorical representation. Quran says, Matalul Jannatillati void al muttaquna tajri min tahtiha al anharu ukuluha daimun wa dilluha. Tilka uqbal lazina taqaw wa uqbal kafirin al nar. Contrary to this, there will be a life of Jannat for those who tread on the righteous path. The example of this Jannat can be understood as follows. So the important point over here is matalu, that it is being presented as an example, as a metaphor. There is a garden in which streams of water are flowing, because of which it remains green and fresh. Its fruits are not seasonal, they are perpetual, and its convenience is eternal. This will be the pattern of life for those who, avoiding the evil paths, take care of the laws of Allah. In contrast to that, for those people who reject these laws, their end will be ruin and destruction. Further elaboration of 1335. First one is abstract realities can only be presented figuratively. Every reality about the life of the hereafter is metaphysical. Hence, the Quran has described it metaphorically. These realities should not be considered as physical and visible. So if we are talking of Jannat of this life, then of course this will be physical. But if we are talking of Jannat, which Quran has explained in terms of the hereafter, then it has to be taken metaphorically. The Quran describes the life of nations in this world also by the words Jannat and Jahannam. Their description is in fact also metaphorical and allegorical. For example, it describes rivers of milk and streams of honey. However, if we apply this aspect of Jannat to this worldly life, then we can turn this physical life into an earthly paradise by observing the physical laws. We witness in the world that wherever we plan and make efforts, we can turn even deserts into orchards and gardens with all kinds of trees, plants, shrubs, flowers, fruits, etc. In this world, in this life, because it is through human intellect and hands we change the face of the earth. So if we say that Jannat of this life, then we will mean through the physical laws. Through study and research, human intellect and endeavors have added far more varieties to what Adam found on the face of the earth initially. Today we find fruits and flowers being produced all year round, and these are being made available across the world due to the ease of movement of goods. So these are the things which should draw our attention, because this is physical. Of course, we look at it from intellectual point of view. It is our intellect which plans and executes it. Towards the end, the verse concludes with the difference between those who are muttaqi and those who are kafirin. So Quran over here says, Tilka uqbal lazina taqaw wa uqbal kafirin nar. So the muttaqi and kafirin, their mention is towards the end of this verse, which means an important point for us is that we differentiate between the physical part and metaphorical aspect of these verses. Because if we do not, then we will find ourselves immersed in the physical aspect of our existence, and the relevance of the self will disappear. So important point over here in this verse, which I in my opinion or in my understanding, is that we should look at both at the same time. That what is the aspect which is related to human self, and if it is related to human self, then Matalo, that is the example used over here, is related to human self. And if we take the literal meaning of it, then it is related to the physical side of it. So both aspects should be kept in mind right in front of us. Otherwise, kafirin will only take the physical aspect of it. The muttaqeen will take both aspects. Now, word 1336, summary of the Quranic invitation. وَالَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَفْرَحُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْكَ وَمِنَ الْأَحْزَابِ مِنْ يُنْكِرُ بَعْضَهُ قُلْ إِنَّمَا أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ وَلَا أُشْرِكَ بِهِ إِلَيْهِ أَدْعُو وَإِلَيْهِ مَآبِ. I've highlighted some of these points in red, and we will throw some light on that once I elaborate this verse further. The people on whom we have bestowed this kind of code of guidance, by following which the outcomes are so pleasant, celebrate with joy everything which is sent towards you. As far as other Jamaats are concerned, there are such people among them to whom some commands appear very irksome. So some people will feel uncomfortable with that, particularly for various reasons. If they haven't heard about it or if they never thought about it, then they will feel uncomfortable initially. Say to them, whether you like it or dislike it, I have been commanded to do this. So the student of the Quran, the messenger of the Quran, will pass on the message without getting into view whether others like it or not. That I should only adopt the obedience and rule of Allah and not associate any partner with Him. I invite you to this maslak, that is this path, this way, and I too remain bound to it. Now over here I've quoted few other verses to support 1336, importance of the Quran. Huwa yuhyi wa yumitu wa ilayhi turja'un. Ya ayyuhan nasu qad ja'atkum maw'izatum min rabbikum wa shifaa'un lima fis sudur wa hudan wa rahmatul lil mu'minin. Qul bi fadlillahi bi rahmatihi fa bi zalika falyafrahu huwa khairun mimma yajma'un. I quoted all these three because I thought these are interlinked, and the meanings will make it clear. It is the law of requital according to which individuals and nations, the supreme revolutions like life and death take place, and all your deeds also return to it. These cannot go outside its realm of authority. Just reflect that the law of Allah is possessor of how much infinite powers. So over here Quran says, Huwa yuhyi wa yumitu. That is, it is drawing our attention to the way we are born, the way we live our life, and then we die. And then it points to the law of requital or mukafa, that you will go back and be held accountable. And accountability, we should keep it in mind, is not something which is a curse. It is in fact a blessing, that whatever we do, we'll get the meat of it. We will get the consequences of it. We'll get the results of it. And ourself, whatever it becomes, will benefit from what it has become. Now the same law, O mankind, has arrived from your Rabb in the form of this code of guidance. In this there is solution for every one of those dissonances, all kinds of psychological imbalances. Because the Quran over here said, وَشِفَاءٌ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ, that whatever dissonances, psychological, because at a fundamental level, human beings have a lot of vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and Quran has pointed to those vulnerabilities and weaknesses. So Quran says that if you wish to come out of that, then you will have to come to the Quran, which keep your hearts in distress. It's very important. And this is something, the psychological aspect, we should keep it in mind as we go through these verses and we go through these presentations. Whichever nation accepts it as its code of life, that is Jamaat Momineen, this guides it towards the path of successes and makes them benefit from the means of nourishment. So Quran says that we get the best out of our life if we come to its guidance. The means of sustenance will remain the same. The interaction with other human beings will remain the same, but it will elevate our eminence to a very high level where we will start seeing the world differently. Say to them, getting this kind of code of guidance is due to the fadl and rahmat of Allah, which is essentially the bounties and blessings of Allah. You could not have acquired it at your own for any price. And this is a fact. If we come to the Quran, we will know that we cannot get the guidance of the Quran without the Quran. Hence, you should rejoice on acquiring it. Important to remind yourselves about its immense importance. This is better than every one of those things which you accumulate in your worldly life. Beautifully put together by Quran, khairum mimma yajma'un. i.e. more valuable and dearest than everything which you acquire to live this life of yours. And of course, this comparison, this advantage which one gets by coming to the Quran can only be experienced after coming onto this path that is Sirat al-Mustaqim. Now, some reflections over here on this verse. The Quran has drawn our attention in some verses towards the aspect of Rahmat in its guidance and asked us to reflect in such a way that we feel pleasure in being guided by it. Very important. If we have come to it, then we should also feel pleasure and a joy in it. That kind of a satisfaction that I didn't know this. So this path of discovery should become very attractive, very motivating. As humans, we only feel pleasure when our needs are met and we achieve something after we have made efforts for it. Next is removal of fear and grief is part of this guidance. And if in the world in which we live, there fear and grief exists, then as a first step, we wish to know the cause for it. So there's no point in experiencing the fear and grief in the world, but not finding the cause for it. Because if we look for the cause and then come to the Quran, we will be able to find that what is the reason behind it. What was the cause which we found before coming to the Quran, and then see how the Quran changes our outlook. The Quran helps us to understand the reasons for this state of affairs in the world. Having understood the causes, i.e. occurring through human hands, we proceed to finding a solution for this man-created problem. The Quran sums up the next step by declaring, Abadallahu wala ushrika bihi. Follow laws of Allah after acquiring Iman. See, over here Allah is mentioned, not Rabb. And be fully cognizant in this effort to not allow any other thought and deed to find its way into this psyche. The Quran has repeatedly drawn our attention by reiterating this aspect in various attractive ways. Last one is the concluding part of the verse explains our duty as followers of its guidance. And it says, Ilayhi adu wa ilayhi ma'ab. A powerful commitment to two aspects, i.e. while inviting others towards it after being convinced of its path, and then as a consequence of this conviction, inviting others as well. So first getting invited and then inviting others. Because once we get invited, we get the benefits of the Quran. Then when we got the benefits and we share it with others, then of course our self further develops. Why invite others? Because it is about coming together so that we gain strength and implement a change in the human world. Because as Quran says that if inner psyche changes, then our outer world changes as well. 1337, well-explained code of laws. وَكَذَلِكَ أَنزَلْنَهُ حُكْمًا عَرْبِيًّا وَلَا إِنَّ اتَّبَعْتَ أَهْوَاهُمْ بَعْدَ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ مَا لَكَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ وَلِيٍّ وَلَا وَاقٍ. And it is for this very purpose that we have sent down this code of laws in such a clear manner. So Arabian over here is not just the Arabic language, but it is in a clear manner, in a very comprehensive manner, in something which will increase the length and breadth of your consciousness. O addressee, if even after finding this knowledge and truth, you obey the ideas of these misguided people, then let it be understood that before the law of Allah, you can have no friend and helper, nor can anyone save you from its grip. Now, further reflections on this verse, the Quran is well explained and complete in all respects. When it says Hukman Arabian, it sums it up and helps the human intellect to grow and expand as we keep making efforts to understand it as a system. The questions which arise in our minds become answered if we persevere and remain attached to its value system. Because we gradually go through our life, evolve, and our understanding keeps building up. So we should go through this path with patience and resolutely, and not give it up. The books by Tulu Islam have made this journey relatively easier because these books are written in easier language for the understanding of the common man. Though we still need to use our intellect and reasoning to elevate our understanding. The development of ourselves through Eimaan and Saleh deeds is part of this endeavor. A very important point is mentioned in this verse when it says that وَلَا إِنَّ اتَّبَعْتَ أَهْوَاهُمْ بَعْدَ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ, i.e. despite acquiring knowledge of the Quran and the world around us, if we look at all this through the medium of our emotions and desires, that is, if we follow ahwahum, if something follows its desires, unguided intellect, then they are not going to get the benefits of this life as the Quran has projected or put forward. Then we will not benefit from its guidance. Our whole endeavor has to follow this pattern, to bring our desires and emotions fully within the guidance of Wahi, willingly, not unwillingly, not under question, because Quran has said, La ikraha fid deen, qad tabayyana rushd min al-ghayy, that both paths of life have been made very clear to you. It is your choice. Without any inner compulsion or outer compulsion, you should adopt this path, i.e., so that there is no contamination. Then our required knowledge will turn into an asset and we will see the world around us differently. Towards the end, the verse mentions Allah with all His attributes and asks us to reflect on the importance of the companionship of Allah through Wahi. In such statements, the Quran helps us to increase the field of view of our consciousness to new dimensions. And we feel it, we know it. It is not something which is intangible or abstract that nobody knows. We ourselves know, and then we manifest it in our outer world through our behavior, through our talking, through our interaction with others. Hereby stating, Min Allahi min waliyyi wala waq, the Quran has thrown light on the importance of not losing the support of Allah. It is making us aware that since we have come to the Quran, we must ensure that we gain the maximum out of this life of ours. As we have gone over it previously as well, particularly in the Surah Yusuf, that Allah does not leave His people alone, because He is everywhere. Huwa ma'akum aina ma kuntum. And the Quran has also said, Allah waliyul lazina amanu, that He is then becomes the protector, because now we take on a different path of helping Allah. All the responsibilities which Allah has taken on Himself, we voluntarily say, we will do it in this life. 1338, the messengers of Allah were humans like everyone else. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلًا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُمْ أَزْوَاجًا وَذُرِّيَّةً وَمَا كَانَ لِرَسُولٍ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ بِآيَاتٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ لِكُلِّ أَجَلٍ كِتَابٍ. Very, very powerful verse, and a number of points are given here, and I will reflect them in slightly more detail. As far as this objection of theirs is concerned, that how can a man like them has been a messenger, say to them, because human beings find it very strange that a messenger from Allah is a human being just like them, forgetting that a messenger has to be a human being because he is communicating his message to human beings. Before even you, we had sent many messengers. They were human beings just like you, and they also had wives and children. After this, coming to this demand of theirs, that the destruction of which mention is made repeatedly, why does it not come? Say to them that, because human beings, they are very impatient. When they are confronted with their deeds, they want, if they don't agree with your stance and with the law of requital, they say, okay, go and bring this punishment. And the Quran is addressing over here that this punishment will come. It is just that it follows laws. This matter is not within the control of a messenger, that he can produce this kind of clear sign whenever he wishes. These things appear in their own time according to the law of Allah. And then his law is this, that for every act and its consequence, there is a time gap, which is called its respite or Ajal. This Ajal occurs according to a law, i.e., there is a law established for this matter about how long a deed takes to materialize its consequences. Similarly, there is an Ajal for nations too. So Quran over says, Likulli Ajal Kitab. Actually, there is an Ajal, there is a law for everything which is working in our life, whether it is at the level of self or the physical laws. Physical laws we easily understand, but laws which are essentially like law of requital, law of respite, which are related to human self, since it takes time for these to materialize, so we can get deceived. Now finally on this verse, further reflections. First one is, this world is created for human beings who are equal beings and deserve respect and dignity as possessors of choice and intent. Because we have choice and intent, hence we have respect and dignity, because we know what respect and dignity is. If we did not know what respect and dignity is, then it makes no difference. Like animals do not have self-consciousness. But since human beings have self-consciousness and they know they have a choice and intent, hence it has to be respected. Wahi has been sent to provide guidance to those who are seeking it. Without Wahi, despite possessing choice and intent, we will have only one path available to us, i.e. the path of our desires and our emotions controlled by our unbridled intellect. A very important and a refined point I have noted over here, that if we do not give a choice to ourselves, then essentially we are deprived of our ability of making choices. Even if we do not follow the path of the Quran, there is no harm in knowing the choices which we get through this guidance. So keeping this path as a possibility in front of us will always give us a choice. Because if we say life ends with death, that means we don't have a choice in this life. That once we die, we have no more choice. But Quran gives us another choice, says that factually there is a life which goes beyond death. And then it draws our attention that at a level of self, we can figure it out very easily, only if we are willing to look at it from a different perspective. This path cannot provide us a developed self which is needed by deen in this world and also meets the criterion of the life of the hereafter. So if we reject this path of guidance presented by the Quran, then essentially we are denying that side of the development of ourselves and its benefits, which are important for us to eliminate the problems in this life and understand the system of deen, and also which takes ourselves on to the next evolution of life, that is in the life of the hereafter. The medium of messengers has been used to convey the Wahi of Allah in every era, and all of them had to be human beings. Because if there are human beings on earth and the messengers are not human beings, then how can they serve as model to us? So that is the thing which we should look at it. And that is why it is important that we should not give a higher status than a human being to messengers, because then we will not be able to follow them, because subconsciously we will have that we cannot do what they could do. As the guidance was meant for human beings, it is that simple. These messengers accepted the guidance of Wahi themselves first, like we have accepted, each one of us has accepted this Wahi first, and then shared its understanding with their fellow men of that era. And we also, through our understanding, are sharing with others. Those who responded to Allah's guidance benefited and were able to improve their society for the better. Since these messengers were human beings, they explained to everyone that the law of mukafat does not follow their desires. Because the law of mukafat is beyond our reach. It is operating through our deeds. It doesn't follow our desires. Whatever we do, that has consequences for ourselves and for others as well. So the society as a whole needs to understand it. And this is what the messengers conveyed to them, that law of mukafat, under the law of mukafat, I will also suffer if I go against it. It follows its own defined path which depends on human deeds. Therefore, not to expect any absurd miracles from them. There is no miracle over here. It's the path which can be understood through rational thinking and reasoning. The whole point is to use the rational side of our intellect and get benefit from the Wahi of Allah. Since everything in the universe and human life follows laws, we can easily understand how the issues in our life function. By concluding the verse by saying, لِكُلِّ أَجَلٍ كِتَابٍ. So if we do not understand something in this world, in our life, in our inner psyche, we need to go back to the Quran and read it again and again, and we will find the answer. Of course, we should also get the knowledge of psychology and other sciences which human beings have developed, because those are the product of human intellect, and that gives us access to how the human intellect functions without the guidance of Allah. The Quran leaves no doubt in our mind regarding the importance of finding out about the laws and values working in our life. This also means to not only seek these, but to compare them with those which man-devised systems follow, so that we can know and compare the consequences of following these two different paths of life. And thank you for sharing this. Thanks for your time and joining us in sharing this presentation.